3.318. I conceive the proposition, like Frege and Russell, as a function of the expressions contained in it. 3.32. The sign is the part of the symbol perceptible by the senses. 3.321. Two different symbols can therefore have the sign, parentheses, the written sign or the sound sign, end of parentheses, in common. They then signify in different ways. 3.322. It can never indicate the common characteristic of two objects that we symbolize them with the same signs, but by different methods of symbolizing. For the sign is arbitrary. We could therefore equally well choose two different signs, and where then would be what was common in the symbolization? I'm going to reread that one. 3.322. It can never indicate the common characteristic of two objects that we symbolize them with the same signs, but by different methods of symbolizing. For the sign is arbitrary. We could therefore equally well choose two different signs, and where then would be what was common in the symbolization? .323. In the language of everyday life, it very often happens that the same word signifies in two different ways, and therefore belongs to two different symbols, or that two words, which signify in different ways, are apparently applied in the same way in the proposition. Thus, the word, quote, is, end of quote, appears as the copula, as the sign of equality, and as the expression of existence, quote, to exist, end of quote, as an intransitive verb like, quote, to go, end of quote, quote, identical, end of quote, as an adjective. We speak of something, but also of the fact of something happening. In the proposition, quote, green is green, end of quote, where the first word is a proper name and the last an adjective, these words have not merely different meanings, but they are different symbols. 3.324. Thus, there easily arise the most fundamental confusions, parentheses, of which the whole of philosophy is full, end of parentheses. 3.325. In order to avoid these errors, we must employ a symbolism which excludes them, by not applying the same sign in different symbols, and by not applying signs in the same way, which signify in different ways. A symbolism, that is to say, which obeys the rules of logical grammar, of logical syntax, parentheses. The logical symbolism of Frege and Russell is such a language which, however, does still not exclude all errors, end of parentheses. 3.326. In order to recognize the symbol in the sign, we must consider the significant use. 3.327. The sign determines a logical form only together with its illogical syntactic application. I'm going to read that one again. 3.327. The sign determines a logical form only together with its logical syntactic application. 3.328. If a sign is not necessary, then it is meaningless. That is the meaning of Occam's razor, parentheses. If everything in the symbolism works as though a sign had meaning, then it has meaning, end of parentheses. 3.33. In logical syntax, the meaning of a sign ought never to play a role. It must admit of being established without mention being thereby made of the meaning of a sign. It ought to presuppose only the description of the expressions. 3.331. From this observation, we get a further view into Russell's theory of types. Russell's error is shown by the fact that in drawing up his symbolic rules, he has to speak of the meaning of the signs. 3.332. No proposition can say anything about itself, because the propositional sign cannot be contained in itself, parentheses, that is the, quote, whole theory of types, end of quote, end of parentheses. 3.333. A function cannot be its own argument, because the functional sign already contains the prototype of its own argument, and it cannot contain itself. If, for example, we suppose that the function capital F, parentheses, lowercase f, lowercase x, end of parentheses, could be its own argument, then there would be a proposition, quotation marks, capital F, parentheses, capital F, parentheses, lowercase f, lowercase x, end of one parentheses, end of second parentheses, end of quotation marks. And in this, the outer function f and the inner function f must have different meanings, for the inner has the form fx, the outer the form double parentheses fx. Common to both functions is only the letter, quote, f, end of quote, which by itself signifies nothing. This is at once clear if instead of, quote, capital F, parentheses, capital F, parentheses, lowercase u, parentheses, end of quotation marks, we write, quotation marks, parentheses, backward e, end of parentheses, capital F, parentheses, lowercase u, parentheses, period. Herewith Russell's paradox vanishes. 3.334. The rules of logical syntax must follow of themselves if we only know how every single sign signifies. 3.34. A proposition possesses essential and accidental features. Accidental are the features which are due to a particular way of producing the propositional sign. Essential are those which alone enable the proposition to express its sense. 3.341. The essential in a proposition is therefore that which is common to all propositions which can express the same sense. And in the same way, in general, the essential in a symbol is that which all symbols which can fulfill the same purpose have in common. 3.3411. One could therefore say the real name is that which all symbols, which signify an object, have in common. It would then follow, step by step, that no sort of composition was essential for a name. 3.342. In our notations, there is indeed something arbitrary, but this is not arbitrary, namely that if we have determined anything arbitrarily, then something else must be the case. Parentheses. This results from the essence of the notation. End of parentheses.